Hi, I'm Dr. Betsy Greenleaf here with Body, Mind, Spirit. And today I'm excited to have Dr. Stephanie Gray. Dr. Stephanie Gray is one of few who has had her doctorate in nurse practice. And she has a awesome, amazing, I love talking to Dr. Stephanie Gray. She's got this amazing clinic in Iowa, and she's also the author of Your Longevity Blueprint. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephanie Gray, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
You know what? So I wanted to ask you, you have more letters after your name than I do. And I thought I had a lot of letters after my name. So you have your doctorate in nursing practice, but then you have a lot of other accolades. One of them being this training in functional medicine, anti-aging, rejuvenation, all this. So what made you get interested in this area of medicine?
Yeah, so I think I could answer that two different ways, but one was kind of my own personal health crisis, which I think a lot of us have when those of us who are in this field. So maybe if I can, maybe differentiate functional medicine from conventional medicine, and then kind of talk about why I got into that. So in this nation, we have amazing conventional medicine, right? If you get hit by a car, if I get hit by a car, take me to the nearest emergency room because I'm going to get incredible care. I like to think of our conventional medicine here as the fire department. They're great with putting out big, bad, ugly fires. But upon discharge from the fire department or the hospital in this nation, we don't always get advised on how to prevent that future fire. So we could even consider a heart attack, right? I have a heart attack, take me to the emergency room. I'm going to get great care. But upon discharge, am I going to get trained on how to prevent future fires, prevent future heart attacks? Not necessarily. So through my upbringing, thankfully, my parents always were taking me to the chiropractor, and they always made sure we were engaged in physical activity and eating healthy meals. I almost went to chiropractic college, actually. They really raised me with this mindset of, I need to take care of this body that God has given me, right? My parents were also self-employed, so we had a high deductible, so we knew we had to take care of ourselves. So I was raised with this mindset that there's got to be more to health care, right, than this kind of sick care that we have. So I learned about functional medicine, which I describe in my book as being more the carpenter or the contractor approach to health, right? We want to repair and rebuild the body. We want to prevent future fires from happening. And so that's when I had my own fire that happened. I had very fast heart rate, and I also had some infertility challenges. And I won't go into my full story. You can read more in my book about that. But I decided, gosh, I need functional medicine for my health. So that spurred my passion and my interest to learn more. But also just based on my upbringing, I knew there's more to healthcare, and that individuals need to know that functional medicine exists. They need to know that there is a root cause for their symptoms, that they don't necessarily have a medication deficiency. There might be something else. There might be something else to explore, which I believe is functional medicine. And that's how I practice today.
Yeah, that's such a great point because, I trained in traditional medicine, and that's something that happened to me over time is I just wasn't getting the answers that I needed for my patients. I'm like, all right, well, let's get down to why is this happening? I don't want to keep just giving pills and things to just cover up the symptoms. Like, yes, there's a place for it, definitely, but then let's get to working on like how can we fix the problem and really truly heal. And, one of the things is that February is American Heart Month. So I want to specifically talk to you about heart health and how to come about it from a functional medicine standpoint.
Yeah.
So, I think also I grew up and I feel bad, I do this all the time in my other podcasts, is I sound like I'm bashing the American Heart Association, but in the late 90s they came out with a diet, and that's kind of was my first introduction to like trying to eat healthy. And and at the time that's what we knew, but this was a very low fat diet, and it turned out to be very low fat, high carbs, because at the time that what was considered healthy. But I find that now that we're in 2021 here, we're also a lot of those thoughts from back in the 90s are still carrying forth. Like people are like, oh, I'm eating healthy, I'm not eating cholesterol, and I'm eating low fat, and I'm eating carbs.
But and we both know that's I mean, because we both work to optimize our patients' hormone levels, we know you don't want to have low cholesterol. Literally, you have to eat healthy fats. We're not talking about bad fats, but healthy fats, avocados, seeds, and nuts. Those actually support heart health, but also hormone health. We don't want to be on a low-fat diet. That isn't going to support longevity and cardiovascular health.
Yeah, so a lot of people, when they think of cardiovascular health, other than like heart attacks and high blood pressure, they think a lot of times about cholesterol. But what is cholesterol, and what is the deal that we need to know about?
Yeah, so I think, unfortunately, many individuals don't know this, but just as many people who have low cholesterol have heart attacks as those who have high cholesterol have heart attacks. So the problem is not cholesterol itself. So maybe I'll go back a moment. So just because I want to bring in functional medicine again, and I'm going to try to weave this together. So I wrote this book called Your Longevity Blueprint. And in chapter 6 of the book, I'm comparing the plumbing system of our home to the cardiovascular system in the body, right? Nobody wants to have really high water pressure in their house to the point where their pipes are exploding or whatnot, right? We know that it's not probably a good idea to dump grease down in your drain, right? You don't want the garbage disposal backing up, right? We kind of know, okay, how we need to take care of our pipes in our home, right? We just kind of have this innate knowledge of what to do to not clog your pipes. But from a cardiovascular standpoint, we don't always know what to do for our body, right? There are some things we can do to maintain healthy pipes, healthy arteries and vessels. But unfortunately, cholesterol gets kind of all of the attention, right? So we think we don't want to have too high cholesterol. Now, to an extent, that's true, but cholesterol has got too much of the popularity. And so from a conventional medical standpoint, we look at the numbers. We just look at cholesterol, and we look at LDL, which is bad cholesterol. We want that low, and good cholesterol, which is HDL high, right? But from functional medical model standpoint, we want to dive into more than just cholesterol. So it's not just cholesterol that can clog your vessels. So what you really don't want to have is inflamed vessels, sticky vessels, right? Back to the carbs you were talking about. You don't want to eat a lot of carbs. You want to reduce carbs in your diet to lower your triglycerides, and lower inflammation in the body so that the cholesterol doesn't get stuck to the vessel wall. But what I think is really unique with functional medicine is we can actually look beyond cholesterol, trying to bring this back together, to look at the particles, right? You don't want to have a lot of really small, dense particles floating around in your vessels, because those are the ones that clump together, form a fatty streak, and then a clot, right? And then you can have a stroke, whatnot. The larger, more buoyant particles can kind of bounce off the vessel walls. They don't get stuck as easily, so those aren't as risk-inducing. So just checking a regular old cholesterol panel doesn't really do a lot to tell us future risk. We need to look at inflammation markers. We do need to look at triglycerides and kind of sugar, your sugar load in the body. We want to look at particles as well, because you may have high cholesterol, but your particles really aren't the problem. So we want to look beyond a regular old cholesterol panel, look at, from a more functional medicine approach, what we call an advanced kind of cardiovascular screening.
And I know we blame a lot on cholesterol, but you need cholesterol to make your other hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is made up and your nerves are made up cholesterol. There's actually been some studies that have shown people, now I'm not recommending people stop their cholesterol medicine without talking to their doctors,
Right.
but there have
Right.
been studies where they've seen people's brains shrink because of cholesterol medications, because of cholesterol levels going down too low. But talk to your doctor. Don't all of a sudden be like, oh, we heard on the Dr. Betsy show that stop the cholesterol medicine. But
we have to take all of our patients' risk factors into consideration, right? Are there some patients who need medication? Yes. But does everybody need medication? No. So kind of back to what you were implying, that I think I agree with. There are, unfortunately, many people who probably have been aggressively put on medication that don't need it, and then they suffer from adverse events. So one of which, as we both, help our patients optimize their hormones, is low testosterone. So the first thing I check on my patients when men specifically come in with low testosterone is if they're on a statin medication, because which is a type of cholesterol lowering medication. Because many times if that cholesterol has been squashed too low, unfortunately, testosterone will be squashed too low as well. And then they're set up for even greater cardiovascular risk. Your heart is a muscle, right? Testosterone helps muscle mass. Testosterone also helps with blood supply and blood flow through the body. So men need testosterone, and then I will also kind of flip the switch on say women need estrogen. So hormones are really important for heart health in both sexes. I think the stats are, I haven't looked at them recently, but with premenopausal women, the risk of dying from heart disease is 1 in 7, right before menopause. After menopause, that risk goes up to 1 in 3. So what's the difference before or after menopause? In women, hormone levels are declining, specifically estrogen. Estrogen helps with elasticity of the veins, helps our veins not be hard and stiff and whatnot, right? So men and women both need hormones, and statin medications affect cholesterol, which then impacts our hormone levels.
And then we also see so many people walking around with high blood pressure. I'm amazed at over the years, not only has it been the older population, which I'm used to seeing, but I'm starting to see patients come in younger and younger all the time with this high blood pressure.
Especially this year of all years with all the stress everyone has. I think that something like the heart attack rate in 30-year-olds has, gone up tremendously, sadly, this year. So what's one of the best things we can do to reduce blood pressure? Deep breathing, right? Incorporate calming exercises, stress reduction techniques this year of all years are so important. And there are a lot of nutrients that can help support lowering blood pressure, and diet changes that can as well, which we can get into if you want. But I agree. When we think of heart disease, it's not just, looking at your cholesterol risk. We also want to look at where your blood pressure is, right? That the pressure, think of the pressure of the water pressure through your pipes in your home. Think of that as, again, the blood pressure through the body. So I agree. We want to look at that. We want to look at risk for metabolic syndrome or diabetes as well, which can then increase heart disease risk.
And a lot of times we see that connected: diabetes, heart disease. What is the underlying connection between those?
Well, I think the big connection is diet, because I'm a functional medicine provider. Again, I think we, through our training, and we as a nation had been so conditioned, to think that how we were eating was normal and healthy. And that's kind of that the food pyramid even has kind of been shifted or thrown to the wayside, because I think we actually need healthy fats, and we need to eat fish, right? If we think of the Mediterranean diet, that diet is something I'll stand behind. That's the diet that a lot of other countries, and even the blue zones, the pockets of people who are living longer, that's the diet that many of those pockets of people are following, incorporating the healthy fats, olive oil, right? And eating fish and having a nice big green leafy salad. That's how we should be eating. And I think that's the commonality between all of those risk factors. One of the commonalities.
Great. So I'm really enjoying this with Dr. Stephanie Gray, but we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back.
Swing Into Their Dreams Foundation presents the golf tournament of the year, raising scholarships for aspiring National Golf Club in Milton, Georgia. The inaugural HBCU Swing Into Their Dreams Charity Golf Tournament. Registration and gourmet continental breakfast begins at 8 a.m. and shotgun at 10 a.m. Award reception follows. Come enjoy a day of jazz, mimosa, cigars, cash bar, silent auction, and more. For more information, contact 770-686-7148. Their dreams. Don't miss it.
So we're back with Dr. Stephanie Gray, and we're talking about heart health today. So back to you, Dr. Stephanie. Now we were talking about a little bit before the break about the diet, and some of the things you were mentioning almost sound like the Mediterranean diet, which we hear so much about. Why is the Mediterranean diet supposed to be healthy for your heart?
So I think one part of the Mediterranean diet that is helpful, although controversial, is whole grains. So we do need grains in our diet, which are fiber, right? Fiber helps even bind, we'll say, the bad cholesterol, so that we can get that out of our bodies. Now, I don't recommend everybody eat wheat. Many of my patients who are full of inflammation need to get off the highly inflammatory grains. So we're thinking wheat, barley, rye, and oats, if not gluten-free, right? So In general, I like the Mediterranean diet, but for some patients, we have to modify that to also go gluten-free. But I think the other huge piece of the Mediterranean diet is eating fish. So fish contain omega-3s. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. There have been several studies, you probably are aware of these, but even on Eskimos who were overweight eating whale blubber, but they had very reduced or low risk for heart disease, right? And their blood was very thin. They had reduced risk for stroke because they were eating a diet so high in omega-3s. So I live in Iowa. I don't have access to fresh fish. So I do try to order fish or eat, I thought frozen salmon once a week, whatnot. But something that I can do to kind of mimic that Mediterranean diet is to at least take fish oil. So I'm a huge fan of taking a high quality, mercury-free, distilled fish oil and eating fish as often as we can, back to, again, mimicking that Mediterranean diet because of all the benefits that those omega-3s are packed with.
When it comes to heart health, what about the role of exercise?
Exercise is essential. That will help to lower the blood pressure that we were just talking about. Exercise is tricky because patients always ask me, well, what do I do? What do you recommend? And depending on what organization you follow, whatnot, there are different recommendations. But I usually tell patients you got to do more than you're doing now, right? If they come in and see me and they're walking their dog twice a day, but they're overweight, and they're not pushing themselves, they're not exerting themselves and getting their heart rate up and getting sweaty, then that's what we aim for, right? 5 days a week would be awesome, but can we start with 1 day a week or work up to 3 days a week? That's more than they're doing now. So that will be helpful for weight loss, which in turn will reduce cardiovascular risk, whatnot. So I usually like to first listen to what patients are doing and then recommend we usually have to step it up a notch.
So you have this book, Your Longevity Blueprint, and I know you said the one chapter covers heart health, but what else are you kind of cover in this book?
So the purpose of the book is to introduce individuals to functional medicine, right? So I earlier mentioned we know hopefully how to keep our pipes clean in our house, hence that analogy with the cardiovascular system in the body. But we have other organ systems that we don't always know how to be maintaining. So through my book, I'm walking patients through different aspects of their home. Chapter 1 is the foundation. You need a strong foundation upon which to support the weight of your entire house, or your house would crumble. Similarly, with the body, you need a healthy gastrointestinal system, because I believe, and with functional medicine, we believe the root of much of the inflammation through our body, even in our vessels, right, that can lead to heart disease, comes from inflammation in our gut. So if we can change the diet, get the processed food out, the sugar out, the inflammatory foods out, and build a healthy foundation, a healthy gastrointestinal foundation, that's going to influence all of our other organ systems. So that's why chapter 1 is all about gut health. And then chapter 6, we talked a little bit about that's hormone health. So I'm comparing the heating and cooling system of the home to the endocrine system in the body. So I just kind of go chapter by chapter, comparing various organ systems in the body to different rooms or aspects of our home. Because individuals they just don't know what's available, what functional medicine testing is available, and what they can do for those organ systems.
That's something too that I've kind of come across over time with this idea with the gut, and I bring it up time and time again, but Hippocrates it was like 440 BC said, let food be thy medicine. I'm like, They knew this so long ago. And and we've gotten away from that, especially with processed foods and, hey, I'm a busy mom. I know that we lost power there for a minute. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'm a busy mom. So it's so easy, you're out with the kids, you're running around. It's so easy just to go grab what's the easiest food. And unfortunately, fast food is not healthy food.
Right. So, it's interesting when my patients kind of complain they don't have time, because we do have the time, right? We're not having to go get, like our ancestors, our water, or go hunting for our food or whatnot, right? So if it takes you half an hour to make a meal, that's a lot of saved time compared to what we used to have to do, to gather whatever, eggs or water or whatever. So modern conveniences, unfortunately, I think have swayed us into like you said, just the easiness of just go through the drive-through. But that's not going to be easy on our body long term. And there's something to be said about community and preparing food with your family and sitting down and eating slowly. Patients who many times have reflux, they're eating their food too fast, right? We need to sit and enjoy and savor food and chew, eat slowly, whatnot. That's better on our digestive system.
And then I also like to combine this whole like body, mind, spirit. And we've been talking so much about the body, which is just natural because that's our background. That's what we deal with every day. But what kind of things can you recommend for people to nourish their mind and their spirit that may help with their heart health?
Yeah, I think it comes back to stress reduction. We were talking about this year being just a rough year for many people, but yet it's given us the gift of time, right? So deep breathing, meditation, prayer, just taking mental downtime, right? Instead of going, which is going to increase our risk for stroke and high blood pressure and whatnot. I think setting aside time every single day, that's what Jesus did, right? He always went away. Even after a busy day, what would he do? He would go away and pray. He would take time, right? We need to be mimicking what he's doing, implementing those sort of techniques into our life. So I think for mind and spirit both, just taking, I always say mental downtime, because what I mean by that is not on your phone, not checking emails, not even reading a book, just enjoying and being thankful for the time that we've been given, deep breathing, prayer. I mean, that grounding, get your feet on the ground, maybe not in winter in Iowa, but in general, get your feet on the ground, connect with nature, connect with the earth. That can have profound impacts on our health.
And I know it's so tough. I have to remind myself to do this too, because a lot of times it's so easy just to get wrapped up in everything. And like you said, with the phones, people are like all on the social media, and we're finding that even just social media in general can cause a lot of stress in people's lives.
It's so negative. It's not building us up. Many times it's dragging us down and causing irritability and anxiousness. We get that dopamine hit every time we scroll on Facebook or Instagram or whatnot. But unfortunately, my generation of all generations, that's where we're kind of finding our happiness these days, in our smartphone and our scrolling, when there's no long-term happiness. And the phone down. And if you want to really read it, I think just diving into things that will bring long-lasting joy are going to be much more fruitful than those short-term dopamine hits.
And something that I'm incorporating in my practice this spring is something called heart math, which I'm going through the training for, and I'm so excited. But the idea is using these relaxation techniques and kind of tuning into your heartbeat to learn how to kind of stimulate relaxation and calmness, which has so many reaching aspects when it comes to inflammation and your hormones. So,
and you can I forgot mine today for the first time in like 6 months, but I usually wear an Aura ring, which can actually, that's just the brand name. It can track my heart rate variability. So I had an infection a couple of weeks ago, and interestingly, my heart rate variability started going down. So I was able to even see that on the ring before I started feeling sick. So very interesting. But I think there are all different sort of apps and products, like you said, HeartMath, which can be used to help train patients into those sort of techniques, kind of calming the heart rate and using breath work and whatnot. And that's where the benefit of technology and smartphones comes in.
I know, especially, I have noticed some amongst my patients that, some of the smartwatches that they're coming in now, and they're like, oh, my goal is to get my 10,000 steps a day. So there are some advantages. I see that it is stimulating people to kind of get moving more. And like we were talking about, just any movement in the day and anything above what you're normally doing is going to be healthy.
I just tell patients, put those watches, those Apple Watch things, in airplane mode. You don't want them constantly emitting Bluetooth, basically receiving wireless radiation. So you can still track your steps if it's in airplane mode, but don't have those features on if you don't need them on.
That's a really good point too. So where can people find out more information about you?
Yeah, so my clinic is the Integrative Health and Hormone Clinic in Iowa. You can find the website, ihhclinic.com. And then my book is Your Longevity Blueprint, of course. I have a podcast as well that I've interviewed you on called Your Longevity Blueprint. And then you can certainly check out my website, Your Longevity Blueprint. I don't know if I just said .com for the podcast, whatever, same thing. YourLongevityBlueprint.com has the podcast and my book as well. And if you want a free tip sheet on how to boost your hormones naturally, you can pick that up there and follow me on Instagram at Stephanie Gray DNP.
That is great. I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And I also want to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us. And if this is programming that you like at TV7. Go to our organization, and if you feel the need, you can help us by donating, because that'll help support more programming like this. You can also find out more about me at drbetsygreenleaf.com, and also you can follow me on social media. Just look up Dr. Betsy Greenleaf or Dr. B Greenleaf. And we're looking forward to having you back here on our next episode of Body, Mind, Spirit, and we'll be talking with you too. Thank you again, Dr. Stephanie Gray, for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.